Hello guys, how are you doing today? It's Tayoaina here again, and today I have a very special guest for you guys. I'm here with Steve Mululu, who is a Kenyan living in South Africa, and he's going to be telling us today how he has used physical energy as equity in building a very successful business. How are you doing today?
Hey Tayo, how you doing?
I'm doing nice to meet
Jambo,
you.
Ngunjani, Sava.
You were born in Kenya, right? What's your journey of coming to South Africa?
I was born in the western part of Kenya. I come from a big family. My father has got 4 wives. I think he only read one verse in the Bible that all that a man has to do is multiply. And that's all he did. He's got 4 wives and each wife has got 15 kids. So I come from a big family of 60 siblings.
60?
So we've always, from a very young age, I've always known that there has to be a better life out there. Traditionally, our fathers looked at kids as investment because the more hands or the more kids that you had, the more hands you had to work the farm. But when I looked at the kind of lifestyle we had at home, being so many people, I think it just ignited the competitive streak in me. As much as we felt very loved, but we lacked everything. You know, if you 1 minute late when it's time for meal, you lose out your meal. Somebody else is going to eat it. If you go to bed 1 minute late, somebody else is going to take your space. So as much as I was close to my brothers, but they also became my competitors. And at the age of 16, I realized that's not the kind of life that I want for myself. So like any other African child, we always saw the dream of the city lights. You always think that life is always better in the city. And I took off to the city. And of course, when I got to the city, it was much worse than the village that I was born in. Why do I say it was worse? Because in the city, for you to survive, you have to have specific skills.
Sure.
And unfortunately, skills come from going to school. Now, my father is not one of those people that invested in education because it wasn't a priority. Just being a boy for him was good enough because I'm strong. I'll be able to work long on the farm. So going into the city, what used to be my strength became my weakness. Because then the city to survive, you need skills in terms of intelligence. So it meant for me to use my village skills, I had to do manual labor. I had to sell things on the streets. I had to go to the Kenyan cereal board and be a packer. I remember one day I walked into the Kenyan cereal board. I must have been 17. They gave me the overall and I looked at all these people. And I remember there was a very old guy there. Most of the guys were all stooped from their waist down. And I asked one of the guys there how long he had been working at the cereal board. And he told me he had been working there for 40 years.
Wow, 40 years.
And at that point, I saw my future. And I don't know what happened. I took the overall off and I walked out because I knew the minute I pick up the first bag, my future is sealed. And that wasn't the kind of future I wanted for myself. It's the same thing in the village. When I saw how they encourage you to be born in the village, get up in the morning, work the farm, come home, sleep and keep on doing the same thing. They encourage you to be stuck in the same place. So going to the cereal board, I saw the same trend and I said, this is not going to work for me. And that's how I changed. To change and get into something else, like everybody else, I had to use what I have. What did I have? I've always been very strong. What did I do? I started doing a bit of boxing. Boxing became my thing because that's where you judged purely on individual performance. From boxing, of course, I started going into gyms to see people training and all that, and that's how I got into fitness. I knew that I can't have what other people have. For me to go and get what I want, I have to focus on my strength rather than my weaknesses. I've always been a very physical person, and that's what I've always used as my main source of investment into any venture in life. Physical energy becomes the only thing that I have. I can always outplay everybody, outrun everybody, outwork everybody.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. All this was in Kenya, right?
Yeah.
Before you moved down here.
Yeah.
How many years ago did you move down to South Africa?
I've been to South Africa now for 25 years.
25 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've been to South Africa for 25 years. I know more people here more than I know people in Kenya, apart from my family. Like all other Africans, we never used to living in one place. We, like the Maasais, we migrate from season to season in search of a better life in terms of food for livestock and food for human beings. It's the traditional, inbred, innate pattern in me. It's the DNA that is inside us that I just followed. So I came here for a better life.
What was it like living and coming to a new country that you're not used to and starting out here?
It's tough. It's tough. You have a lot of barriers. One, from a language perspective. Two, from a skills perspective. Three, from a culture point. I wouldn't just say in South Africa alone. I think like anybody else, if you go into a new country without any kind of support, we don't have structures in this place that will always desensitize locals and foreigners. So when you come in, you're thrown straight into the melting pot. Now the local people don't really understand people from outside, and people from outside don't really understand people from here. So there'll always be a clash, and the clash is not that people don't like each other. What you don't really know, you become fearful. And anything you're afraid of, the truth is you don't understand it.
You understand it.
So I find this, what the so-called xenophobia in South Africa between the South African Africans and the so-called Africans from Africa in diaspora, it's not a hate issue, it's purely lack of understanding each other. At some point, if you go back in history, somebody instilled in us that we are different. So we focus more on our differences than our similarities. We're more similar than we are different.
True.
So we always stick to one difference that we drive so hard. But at the end of the day, I'm yet to meet anybody that spits out hatred that does not feel whatever it is that is saying, because in most cases we know we're more similar than we are different. I never look at it as xenophobia, so I won't say that's an obstacle. I only see that we need to know and understand each other better so that we can live in harmony.
Very insightful. So what about your fitness business? How did you start that?
That's a question a lot of people ask me.
Okay.
I've never gone out to build a business. I've always gone out with the intention of giving as much value to the people around me more than they can pay me.
Okay.
And I think that's the philosophy that we have to teach most of our kids. When we talk about business, I think we've always been misled that you have to go out there and be so physical and so forceful in terms of chasing money. But nobody's ever taught us that money is a byproduct of the value that you add to society. And if you want to make money, of course, you have to look at the environment or where you are. Look at the problems. Whoever solves the problems, of course, makes money.
True.
And how do you find problems? Look for human beings. There is no place where there are human beings where there are no problems.
True.
Human beings are full of problems. So if you come up with solutions, look where you are at this point. There is somebody struggling with something. If you solve or if you come up a solution to the problem that the next man has next to you, the only way he's going to be able to repay you, unfortunately, because he can't do the same for you.
Sure.
The only measurement or the only return, the only thanksgiving another human being will ever give to another one is a monetary exchange. So when people ask me that how did I turn this, I've always been the kind of person that understands that solutions make the world go around.
I totally agree with that. Like this chair we're sitting on now, it was somebody who thought about it and made it.
100%.
And has given us value to be able to enjoy what we're enjoying now. It was like a general intro on your business, your fitness business.
We're in the business of increasing people's energy while at the same time them having fun as they achieve the dreams of their body so that they can be able to chase and go after their dreams. We are simply Disneyland for grown-ups.
Interesting. So how did you go about getting your location for your fitness center and all of that?
I was working for one of the big clubs in this country, and all I saw every single day was frustration on people's faces. They were trying to come in, they train, they use trainers, they do whatever, but the knowledge was lacking. This is one thing, Tio, I need you to understand. The best inventors in life are thieves. They're imitators.
True.
So it's a matter of looking at what the best are doing and then making it better. So at this point, these were the biggest chains here. So how could I make the experience for the customer be much better than that? And that's where we came in. So how do I move from being a personal trainer to a business owner? That's one of the biggest challenges that most people face. I was coming from a single entity where I deal with one-on-one person. Now I'm going to a place where I have to start doing multiple of roles that I wasn't trained for. Now becoming a business owner, it means I have to start negotiating leases with landlords, experience that I don't have. I have to start reading legal documents that I have no backgrounds in. I have to become a salesman. I have to become a marketer. I have to become an HR for staff. I had a dream. Like anything else that you see in this world, it will always go through 3 stages. 1, through your mindset. Secondly, on paper, and then through the physical structure. So I always had that dream to do that. From a physical point of view, I was lacking there. I was lacking the funding. I didn't have the money. So when I went and I saw this first empty space, the first thing the landlord asked me was a 3 months deposit, which at that point, come on, I'm doing personal training. And at that point, the deposit for that, I think, was at like 350K, money that I didn't really have. The second obstacle, of course, was the equipment manufacturer. Their terms were simple: 50% deposit on order and 50% down on delivery. The landlord, to deal with me, she wanted her money. And I remember going there several times and she refused even to see me. This is where I learned one thing: act as if, perceptions. I used to go to her in my personal training uniform, and that automatically already sent the message to her, I cannot afford it. But I constantly kept on going there to a point where she ended up seeing me. I went on the net. I was as young as Mr. Google at that time. And I found the international sales director for Life Fitness International. I started sending him an email every Tuesday. Why did I choose Tuesday? Because I know Mondays, most people's email boxes are too full.
Too full, yeah.
And if he doesn't know me, he'll just delete me. Sure. Tuesday is always one of the best days to send that. So I started sending him, and I remember I sent him the email for consecutive 12 weeks. Then one day I got a response from this guy, and he says, I like your idea, because I sold him the whole landscape. South African business, Mark, is one of the biggest businesses in the world, but we don't even have a 10% usage in this country. So if we get even 10-15%, it will be one of the biggest fitness businesses in the world. So I sold that dream to him, and I told him, if you took me on board and use my facility as your showroom, then you're exposing your equipment to the right people. So he bought into that. One day I get a call. He tells me, I'm coming to South Africa. Do you have time to meet? And I'm like, hallelujah. So he comes, I go pick him at the airport. Then I ask him, I just need one favor from you. I need to take you to the premises, but I need you to talk on my behalf as my business partner to the landlord. And because I knew, one, I was buying into his experience. He was a sales marketer. Two, with his American accent, it will do that. So I tapped into his expertise and I tapped into his experience. And because he had more experience in this, he sold the idea to her. For the first time, I had a physical structure now. It was no longer in my head. I remember I used to go there every single day. I used to go there in the dark, sit in one of the rooms, no lights, no nothing, and sit there and imagine this place just full of people. Power of visualization. And at that point, I recruited 20 guys. All I could do, I invested in yellow t-shirts, and all we did in the suburb of Sunninghill is just walk the streets and try to sell this facility. When we sold our first 100, for the first time I knew that this dream has come true. There was no going back. I've taken people's money, but above that, people have been able to see my dream through their eyes, and that's how we came to life. All I'm trying to say is hold on to your dream. The world will always conspire to make your dream come true.
What would be your advice to a lot of young African people out there who want to follow their path, build their dream, and become successful?
That's a good question in the sense, I think as Africans, our politicians and the whole world has been trying to uplift us and solve our problems in the wrong way. I have nothing against politicians and organizations as much as they try to bridge the gap from where we are and where we need to go. We need to invest more on positive self-empowerment programs. I think our biggest shortcomings as Africans is not lack of opportunities. We just don't believe in ourselves. We always come into any situations from a point of underprivilege. I'm not good enough. Unfortunately, the world is a mirror of your thoughts.
Sure.
If your body is made of what you eat, your life is made of what you put in. And a good example, if you go into any township, especially if we're talking the context of South Africa, when you're driving to the airport and you look across Alex, what is the most common thing that you see?
Satellite dishes.
Satellites. What does that mean?
A lot of people are watching TV.
A lot of people are watching TV, but the depth of that is a satellite receives, it doesn't send out. So what are these people receiving? Who's programming these people? And most of these people are watching our SABC soapies. But unfortunately, our SABC soapies are the ones that degrade us rather than build us. It's always about us African men having affairs, about our women sleeping around, about us being known for drinking, about us corruption, about us fantasizing about being a gangster. This is millions of our people receiving this constantly. Now, our focus from an individual and collectively, we need to come up with programs that more change our people's way of thinking rather than handouts. We don't want handouts. We need ways of changing how we think, because if we don't change how we think, forget it, we never chase our dreams. We all have dreams. We all have dreams. Why? Because we all come from one consciousness. We all come from one God. Whatever it is that you want is what God wants for you. But most of us, because we've been sold the idea of being separate from the one God, we always find it impossible for us to chase our dreams. Because we separated from Him, we focus more on the physical barriers rather than tapping into the spiritual abundance. We already have what we're looking for. So rather than looking out, which the satellites are doing, we have to turn that and start looking from within. Whatever it is, if you can dream it, it means God is putting you tools to make sure that you can manifest it, only if you don't give up.
Wow, amazing. Thanks a lot for sharing all of that. So yeah, guys, that's all we have for you today. I'm going to put a link to his business in the description below. I'm also going to put a link to his YouTube channel in the description below, so you can check out his channel and also subscribe to it. There's a lot of awesome stuff there. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.